I gotta hurry and I gotta catch a plane. And they're vacuuming outside and their cords are hitting the door and they can't stop me. Good morning and welcome to the Daniel Baldwin Show. It is Monday, March 3rd, and I am still in LA. I'm at the Hilton Universal. Take a look at this quick shot or video. Take a look where I'm at, what room I'm in. That's right. So this is now the room that they had the gala in, and it's all empty. They've broken it all down. And I was trying to find a place that I could do the show and not miss doing a show or turning it in late and get this out to you. But they have music streaming throughout the whole hotel. There's like, like, I couldn't find one place. So I said, man, I wonder what's in the ballroom. I wonder what's in that big old room. Nothing, but they got guys outside vacuuming. So I'm gonna go, I'm going, man. I'm not afraid, I'm gonna go. And I'm gonna do this show on this whole Zelensky thing. I'm gonna call it, let's come up with a title right now. The Oval Office, the Oval Boval. What the hell happened? And look at America's response to Trump and J.D. Vance just shutting this guy down. You know, and it's funny because everyone keeps saying, you know, the Ukraine are the ones that suffered. Putin invaded and Russia invaded the Ukraine. That's true. His actions of going into Russia to go into the Ukraine and pick on the poor little Ukraine and all the things that, you know, we're being told happened in this altercation, in this war. So let me say, first of all, anyone, any young man or woman on either side that's dying over what I'm going to expose to you that I know, and not what I'm being fed from CNN or Fox or either side or any of this BS, just listen and understand why this happened. I have a good friend, George, in Texas, who he's Romanian and he's very passionate about this. He's very much a Ukrainian supporter and he hates Trump and blah, blah, blah. So he, you know, eggs me on and writes me stuff. And for him, growing up in Romania, I'm sure he really believes all this stuff. And he's in America now. And I think he's on a steady diet of CNN and anti-Trump stuff. And blah. But here's the bottom line. This is what this is about. And I'm going to open up by going back over something that many of you may not remember. And I was very young when it happened, but I was taught to hate Russia. I was taught to see Russia as this terrifying threat to U.S. freedom, and it was called the Cuban Missile Crisis. It happened under the administration of John F. Kennedy. He was a very young president. Photographs saw Soviet missiles, nuclear bombs, coming in, and they were stockpiling these bombs and building launching facilities in Cuba, 90 miles off the coast of Florida. Kennedy was advised by many advisors, people were saying, nuke Russia now, nuke them, get them now. It'll be easier now than letting them build this power plant. And Kennedy was like, I'm not starting a nuclear war. Like, what are you talking about? Get them now, Jack. We gotta do what we gotta do. I remember thinking to myself, you know, years later, after this took, because I was a little kid when this happened or something like that. But anyway, in my learning about it, what they wanted, what the machine wanted, what America was unwilling to have, nuclear weapons and troops and different stuff right off the coast of our country. So, on February 9th, 1990, a similar guarantee, a united Germany linked to NATO, but provided that NATO troops would go no further east than they are located, was offered by Robert Gates, Deputy National Secretary Advisor to the U.S. President in his conversation with the head of KGB and USSR, Vladimir Khrushchev. So, let me explain what that means. We promised them that we would not move NATO east. We would not go east. That was promised, later signed into a treaty, and in 1990. Clinton turned around under his administration and they said, it's a treaty. What are you worried about? Don't worry about it. In 1999, we added Poland, we added the Czech Republic, and we added Hungary. We promised that we weren't going to go past where we were. We promised that we would not encroach. Now remember something. If they become a NATO blanketed country, if they become a member of NATO and they fall under the blanket security of NATO, we would have U.S. troops and bombs and armaments. These are countries that crept closer and closer to Russia. This is the equivalent of putting weapons and troops in Cuba. There was no way that John Kennedy was going to allow that. There was no way that the Americans were going to allow Russian troops, Russian facilities to be 90 miles away. They weren't going to let that. And we were promised and signed into treaties that they weren't going to do it. Now, if you put NATO into the Ukraine, that's the same as putting it in Canada or Mexico. Not even there's their water 90 miles separating. On our borders, we would allow Canada to put Russian troops or Mexico and weapons and perhaps nuclear weapons and tanks and military bases that they could fly their planes out of right across the border into Arizona, Texas. Do you think we would allow that? Do you think we would do everything we had to do to pressure everyone around, including potentially invade Mexico before Russia got there? We were going to blow Cuba up. Fidel Castro and everybody in Cuba, the advisors were advising Jack Kennedy, blow it up. Start a war now in retaliation if they don't back off. Nikita Khrushchev, we were never going to allow that. So we had a deal, signed a deal with the Russians. We had treaties saying we weren't going to do this. The Ukraine borders Russia. It's Mexico or Canada. We had made promises that we would not ever go east of the point we were at. And we certainly broke that by adding these three countries. And now, NATO, of course, Zelensky comes in, takes this meeting, and starts barking out what he wants. Now, I hear all the egotistical stuff. Let's take things one thing at a time. He didn't wear a suit. He didn't do it. Personally, I could care. I think, honestly. Well, let me tell you a story first. I'm going to tell you this story. I didn't plan on this, but I'll tell you a story. There was a friend of mine. He owned a club, and it was the parking lot next door. They were expanding, and the club was doing well. It was in Amityville, New York, the town next to Massapequa, the town I was from. And the guy that owned the parking lot was a connected guy. And I knew him. I actually worked at the club, and he said, get that, this, if we could get that, expand over, Danny. The club's doing really well, and, just get that parking lot. I said, okay, what do you want me to try to ask, cousin? And he said, yeah, man, if you could talk to them. He said, well, we'll pay a rental, we'll pay a VIG, we'll do whatever we have to do, but we got to have that park. It was the only place, if they were going to expand this place, that you could park. You couldn't park on the street. The cops in Amityville weren't going to put up with it. They needed this parking lot. And the guys that owned the parking lot and the couple adjacent buildings, they knew they needed it. These smart business guys. They were very Italian men. But I remember going to Crackers. This guy's name was Cracker. We called him Cracker. And I remember going to Crackers going, hey, these guys would like to approach him. They're not sure how to do it. And they said, he knows you. Cracker's name was Jimmy. He goes, I think you should probably be the one initially to go into and ask him very respectfully, by the way, wear a suit. And I said, a suit to go have lunch or whatever? And he goes, yeah, there'll be any lunch. We'll come down. He'll tell us where night before or whatever. Don't bring anybody else with you. Be very, very to him. Call him sir, unless he tells you different. And wear a suit and a tie. And I thought, okay. And I was 18. When I met this guy, Jimmy took me in, introduced me, he shook me, said, how can I help you? And I told him, I said, they own the club, and he goes, how much? I went right through what he would want and what percentage of, there's some way we could work out per car, or who's going to insure it. He just went through all like it was business. But I remember him instructing me about how I should carry myself in that meeting. That this was a powerful guy. This was just a parking lot, but okay. He's going to take a meeting with the school teacher's son that he knows who teaches his kids, and blah, 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 blah. And I walked out of the meeting, and I was able to broker the deal, and the bar blew up, and everyone did well. I don't think I got really much. I think I got, tickets to a Yankee game or something to deal. But the point was, even Jimmy told me, show some respect, wear a suit. When you're making an ask for someone, when you're coming on a business deal with someone, play the game. Find out something about the person that you're meeting. Find out where he went to college. Find out somebody else he might know. Find out somebody else he does business with. Find out something about him that he likes. Find out about his family. Ask about how his family's doing. But research and do the work that make you a little different than the other person. For Zelensky to show up in the White House, he's a president of a country. You can't put a jacket and a tie on. I get the end all be all. I get he's this whatever he's trying to portray, but he's come to the White House asking a guy who's pretty old school, and he'd done his homework. Had anyone been advising him, they would have said, put a jacket on, put a tie on when you go there. They're all going to have, everyone else is going to have a jacket and a tie. Why would you want to stand out and even potentially be offensive? I can understand that from my own life experiences. Can understand. I went to an event, which is an Oscars event here in LA. And I don't particularly like wearing a tux. I just always feel but I've seen the guys that show up that don't wear the tux. I've seen the guys, and it screams of they're trying to stand out, or they're trying to, go against I just put the tux on. It's called a black tie event. So just play the game, put the tux on. Do you have to wear the white weird suit with the fluorescent tie? And okay, I guess. When I see people like that, I see people desperate for attention. That's one point. Now let's go to another point. So there's been a lot of publicity and a lot of stuff out there about how much money has gone. A lot of American citizens, including myself, that would like to know, well, what do you mean you don't know where the money is? Hang on a second. I lent you or sent you or supported you for any cause, all this Doge stuff, anything. It upsets me. Say, how many billions of dollars? 300, is it 600? I'm not even going to get into the semantics of that. I'm not. It's like listening to people. It's like this argument. I got one for you. That it's like people that claim that there weren't 6 million Jews that died during the Holocaust. It was only 3. What? If one person died because of what religion they were taken, ripped out of their children and murdered in concert. If it was 300, whether it was 6 million or 3 million, that's the argument? That this terrifying atrocity took place against a people that were relatively defenseless for no reason but their religion. Does it matter what the number was? If we're giving billions of dollars to a country that can't account for over half of it right now, well, we're not sure. We have to go, hang on a second. I want you to think about this just for a minute. I want you to think about a wife that's in this country whose husband did not come home in the military. Whatever confrontation, whatever the reasons, whether it was a helicopter smashing into an airplane, whether it was, on the seashore of some country, or was in the Middle East, it doesn't matter. I want you to explain to me how I can justify not helping that woman support her children after her husband gave his life for us to be free. Yeah, be quiet a second and take that in. I want you to tell me how I work in drugs and alcohol to try to help people on the side, just help them get sober. How many soldiers are coming home to this country suffering from PTSD? Awful trauma and stress over what they say. Now they're homeless. They can't keep their stuff together. It's super taxing on them. And I can't offer a hotel room, a warm place with a bowl of oatmeal in it, a couple of eggs. But I can give that away to a family that comes in here illegally, doesn't fill out the necessary paperwork. And those people, by the way, are welcome. We just want you to come in the front door and fill out all the paperwork and come like everybody else had to come. Now they've snuck in on the border of Texas, and I'm paying for that. But I'm telling that kid with PTSD, yeah, I don't have a place for you to stay. While I give billions of dollars away, someone's knocking at the door. I told you I'm in the conference, this big room that they had the thing on. So people might knock, people might stop, but I'm going to keep going. I'm not afraid. You hear it? Can't write this, man. Hey, be quiet! Guys in there going, oh my God, the boss is inside. So I think you get the picture. I think you get where I'm going. Aren't there enough American interests? Aren't there enough things that we should do with billions and billions of dollars that we're giving away to another country? And this guy comes here and he doesn't have the brains enough to, and then he starts, very important, dictating to the president and to J.D. Vance and the people in that room how it's going to go. Well, look, we need NATO, we need this, you're going to do that. I need a loan. I need brother Alec, my brother Billy, my sister Beth, whatever. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to tell them how you're going to send me the money, when you're going to send me the money, with the terms of the loan, really? When your hand is out and it's been out, you don't determine. Sit back, you're very grateful because your ass is about to get slaughtered without U.S. help. You really don't have a lot of rights to be telling anybody anything. Without U.S. help, the Ukraine would be gone already, probably be gone. And I'm not justifying that. I'm not saying, oh, we need to support Putin, Putin invaded, but I want you to try to understand the circumstances by which Putin did this. I want you to understand it, because when it's America's turn, when it's America who has Cuban Missile Crisis or problems going on, and you mess with our interests, you mess with our actual sovereign property, you come and you bomb Pearl Harbor. Now they were attacked. We were attacked. We were attacked. Absolutely, we were attacked. So what does Trump and Vance do? What do they want? A, I want to know where the money is. I'm not giving you any more money. B, you're not coming into my house and you're not going to tell me the terms of how I'm going to help you. You need to be quiet. You need to let us explain to you why we want to do the way we want to do. No, you are not going to become a NATO country. You're not. There's not a chance Russia would ever allow a NATO country the size of you to be bordering their country that can amass troops right on our border. Like I said, that would be like Mexico rolling over to Russia and putting troops all along California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. You think that's going to happen? You think we would allow that to happen? Do you think the Russians are stupid? So in 1999, the Czech Republic, Hungary, and Poland all became part of NATO, the first expansion in 17 years, and built a strong foundation of subsequent future expansions. Led NATO military campaigns to end ethnic conflicts and bring peace to Bosnia and Kosovo. After the deal and the treaties were signed, Clinton started nosing around. Clinton started pushing things around a little bit. And in 99, they moved closer and closer to neighboring countries very close to Russia, after promising they wouldn't. Do you really think the Russian people are going to allow the Ukraine to go to NATO? You talk about wanting to start a war. You want to talk about us. If they come into NATO and we allow them to come to NATO, you could easily see a war happen between the United States and Russia, for sure. And you know what? Russia was promised. We broke those treaties and promises, and so did everybody in NATO by expanding in 99. We did. You think the Russians aren't sitting there right now going, they're going to surround us. They're going to make it impossible. You think the Chinese want that? No. When you make a deal, make the deal. I promise you the parking lot was made that I helped broker was honored. Every single piece of ink that was written in that contract was honored and paid on time, and everybody flourished. But you can't make deals and not expect people to be pissed when you break the deal. And they broke the deal. And Zelensky absolutely wants to be part of NATO. He wants to be. Why? Because then he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. He doesn't have to remember all of these poor countries that are going to get overrun by big bad Russia or big bad China. When they join NATO, we pay for it. This is part of what Trump has also said. I'm not paying for this anymore. You people are either going to pay us or you're going to pay your share somehow. But we're not going to be the ones that pick up 90-something% of the fee for Germany, for France, for England does a lot of work. They send troops, they do a lot of stuff. But there are some countries out there that just live off of us, pay for all of it. Flying sorties over their borders, naval ships, throughout the Mediterranean and all over the place. I mean, what is enough? These countries have money. These countries have a lot of money. We're going to pay the bill if we go to the Ukraine. Russia's never going to allow us to go to the Ukraine, and I wouldn't let them go into Mexico. I would support trade with any country that was hostile towards us, that tried to occupy Canada, to occupy any place near our border. We do not want troops amassed in ships and nuclear weaponry and all kinds of stuff on our borders. Absolutely not. And neither does Russia. And we screwed them. We screwed Putin. So what did Putin decide to do? Not that I'm in favor of this move, but he decides, listen, before this happens, we'll invade the Ukraine. We'll invade the Ukraine. If you're going to a situation where you think you're going to park military planes on our border that could be into our territory when your country is half a globe away. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So he went in there. Because they broke the deal, and they're afraid, and they're worried about American and other countries' occupancy on their border. And we promised them that wouldn't happen. And guess what? Just like the American Indians, just like a whole bunch of other people, I could tell you, hey, try these blankets on. They don't have botulism in them. We're not going to wipe out and steal all your land and massacre your people. We're not going to do that. Be our friend. Really? Okay. So we've been over the border situation, the treaties that were broken. Zelensky insisting, that he was going to make the terms. Zelensky, Putin all knew. And Zelensky was thinking that he had Democratic support. He believed that he would be able to make this bold move on live television. But Trump and Vance saw right through it and outmaneuvered him. I believe that Zelensky came into the Oval Office, knew the cameras were going to be on, and decided to plead his case, thinking that he had enough still Biden, ex-Biden, and support. He did. He was wrong. He was absolutely wrong. And he tried to moment when J.D. Vance says that he was being disrespectful.
What kind of diplomacy, J.D., you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
So you see, Vance is upset. He's upset. And while everyone's jumping on the bandwagon about how that show initially looked, and it didn't look good. I mean, it looks like they sandbagged him. No, they knew exactly what they were doing. Trump is actually protecting Ukraine without dragging the U.S. into a war. By negotiating a mineral deal, Trump ensures that Americans will be involved in the Ukraine's mining business. Think about that for a minute. So Trump's trying to figure out a way to minimize the damage that's happened now. He knows he cannot add the Ukraine to NATO. That is never going to fly. That would be, you might as well start bombing stuff over there. Really, there's not a chance that and Russia are going to allow Ukraine to be in NATO. There's just not any chance. It's the same as I told you about Mexico or Canada. There's not a chance we would allow that to happen, and we'd do everything in our power to make sure it didn't happen. And so will he, including on all-out war if he had to. I think they would be very, very worried about the state of Russia existing, and believe me, other countries over there that wouldn't allow that to happen. They would not let it happen. So it's not even a possibility. And Trump knew that. Trump knew it. Biden and the past screwed up the Ukraine so bad. They really did. They just, when it started, they could have got to the bargaining table. They should have put Zelensky in his place. Which, by the way, too, you hear all these conflicting reports, and it depends on if you're anti-Trump and you're trying to make this look bad. And I'm not supporting the president himself on this. I'm doing the facts as I've been able to understand them. As I go beyond CNN or Fox or that favors either side or any of this nonsense, and I just look at the facts. What would make Putin be this unpopular to want to go in and pick a fight and make advancement on the Ukraine? Well, of course, the fact that the Americans and Biden, and for years now, have not honored the treaties, and they're scared. They're scared. So does that justify, was there a political Putin could have tried? I'm sure he could have. And any life, either side. These young men and women don't know what this is all about. They're being sent. There's North Korean guys that are being paid for by Putin to go there. Do you know what the moms and dads in North Korea, the kids that are in the military when the country's not even at war? This is like Vietnam to them. Let's go fight in some other country that we're not even sure what the hell we're doing over there. Oh, the North Vietnamese are picking up. Come on, man. That's not what that war was about. Wars make money. I want you to understand something. Think how brilliant this is, man. So there are large corporations that really run the world. They do. There's, less than 1% own, 90-something% of. I'm going to go through all. But we all get that now, I think. So I'm going to make right. This bomb's a good bomb. Well-made American sensors that follow stuff and it lands within 2 feet, from 1,000 miles away. All the stuff, the technology, best ones there are. Okay, so lend the money. Here's all the cash. Go, let me show you. You ready? You ready? Here's my Amex card. I'm going to give like this and hand the Amex card to the Ukraine. I said, man, here's the money, man. Go ahead. The Ukrainians, Zelensky and his friends, Joe Biden, they're going to use the credit card that we gave them, our money, with billions and billions of dollars of credit, and they're going to buy American missiles. They're going to buy these missiles from the guys who are the number one campaign supporters for Joe Biden. The military-industrial complex of the United States. Raytheon, I could go through, all these different, Grumman, big airplane companies. We're going to buy American dollars, American taxpayers, not even the stockholders of these companies' money. Our money, out of my paycheck, your paycheck, is going to be given to the Ukrainians. And they're going to come back to the U.S. and buy missiles, bullets, tanks, helicopters, planes, drones, you name it, military stuff. And they're going to deliver to Ukraine. Now, they're all fighting on the border and into the Ukraine. These missiles that we just bought with American money are going to be launched well past where the conflict is happening, well into Soviet space and Soviet airspace, and land at targets that have oil refineries, not where there's troops, not where there's weapons being used, airfields that they're flying sorties out of or whatever they're doing. We're going to hit their oil fields. So the taxpayers' dollars in the U.S. that's being given to fight the war in the Ukraine is actually coming back to the U.S. by all these people that make money because of war in the United States. All these people that are part of those companies that are the 1%ers that own stock in those companies, because they keep making the helicopters and they keep making the bombs, and we just keep sending the bombs, and you and I are paying for it. But they're not even targeting the troops that they're fighting. They're targeting oil refineries and oil fields in Russia, natural gas facilities in Russia, with bombs that are going 1,000 miles past where any activity is. Why? Well, if you cripple Russia's ability to produce the oil that they sell throughout all of Europe and all of Asia, then they got to buy American stuff. So the people that are those 1%ers that have all that money, all their oil stock and all their oil company stuff, that all goes up too. Everyone needs that oil. Everyone wants that oil. The strategy economically behind what's going on right now in the Ukraine, how everyone's being used for those bombs to be paid for, and half the money, not really sure just yet where that money is in the Ukraine. They can't be accounted for. Do you think all of it went to buy those bombs? Don't you think that they'd be able to, I don't know, it is 2025. Can't you hit a button, or a couple of people hit buttons that understand where, I don't know, you misplaced a couple billion. That's a lot of money, a couple billion. You misplaced 20 billion. But right now you're not sure where 200 billion of it went? 150 billion? 100 billion? A couple of billion out of 300. I mean, we haven't got all the receipts in. We haven't got whatever you want to say. The cash register says, Mr. Baldwin, last night the bar did $700. We have 250,000 of it accounted for. We're not quite sure. Oh, well, they were buying lots of shots for Fredo and his friends and the door guys. They're not the most reliable guys. You get the idea. Some of them, but that much, over half? You don't know where it is? That doesn't smell funny to you? That doesn't smell like somebody grabbed some of the money, or it's been misappropriated, or we're not sure because people line their pockets during all these different transactions as they, they're going back and forth, and we're not sure. This company had it and allotted to northern Ukraine and southern Ukraine. Man, it's all bullshit. It is. It is. The money was misappropriated, period, because it didn't go where it was supposed to. Now, I want to bring something else up to you. That's very, very important to understand. There's a war going on in this country, in the Ukraine. And it has this guy, a good friend of mine, Shelley, on Facebook. Great guy, a teacher from school. And I love him. He's just a boy we differ on our opinions of what's going on. And he is definitely, in my opinion, taken the hook, on Zelensky, and I stand for Ukraine. If you had any idea what was wrong over there, if you had any idea how little these people, the regular people, the kids from Massapequa like me, not some family where I was a Trump and I'm Baron Trump and my father and I had all this money, or I was this kid's family. They were really wealthy kids, way more money. Their cars were worth, a couple worth what mine worth. From my team, I knew kids that were rich. In my opinion, I thought they were rich. Then I became an actor. I met people that were really rich, and I realized how broke I really was. But the point in Ukraine, because of the president decided to suspend elections, citing that, with 20% of the population involved in excursions and so on, and this is quote, 20%, and that there's occupancy of Russia in territories of the Ukraine would not make fair. Okay? Did we stop the elections during the Vietnam War? Did we stop the elections during any of the confrontations in the Middle East? Did we stop elections after 9/11? No. Now, granted, those were not on our property. 9/11 was, but I understand too. And look at the popularity. I don't listen to, because some people are going to tell you he's at about 50%. He's nowhere near 50%. He's not. He's not a popular president at all now. And if there was an election in that country, he would not be reelected. Right now, they're calling after the Oval Office incident for his impeachment. Now he should step down, and he may have had his run. I certainly think what happened at the Oval Office, I think he will probably be replaced now. He will be with someone that understands what they need to do to end the war there. Listen, when you're Poland in World War II, good example, great country, great people, got a lot of Polish friends, not talking anything bad about Poland, but Poland overrun. I mean, it was like Afghanistan to us. Iraq, Iran, big countries, but Afghanistan, like going to a 7-Eleven, like we just walked in, we walked out, made it was done. It was weeks, okay? Same thing for Poland. If Russia aggressed Poland, which is now in NATO, they would face, so you understand why it's safe. Otherwise, Poland could not defend itself against a big country. They couldn't. They would get overrun quickly. The Ukraine is doing a really good job. I just sent the full court press, and really gone after that, or just started bombing this like a World War II type, or a Vietnam carpet bombing. Just kept sending in the planes and not caring about loss. And I think Russians have the capability of doing that in Ukraine, and I think they've held back. Don't think that Putin is that popular right now in Russia, because they really don't want to be. People in Russia know people in Ukraine. It used to be Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. So there's relatives across that border. There's people that are loved that are being fighting. They're torn apart. That's going on. So he's suffering popularity. If you don't think, now remember, I said this to you. Please listen to me when I tell you this. If you don't think that Putin wants that war to end, he does. He does. He does not want to be at war with Ukraine. But he wants to be guaranteed there's not going to be a NATO nation. You're not going to park American planes, British planes, French planes, Exocet missiles, blah, 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 on his border that could reach Moscow and start a confrontation and give them, other countries, an advantage over his country. He's not going to do that. And we promised him that we wouldn't. Zelensky is not a popular president right now. So if we're talking about this democracy and freedom and I support Ukraine, how come there's not an election to find out if this guy would be the guy that would be the leader? Well, there's a war going on, so it really wouldn't be a fair. That's such BS. That's such BS. How convenient is that you're running out of shells and you're still aiming a gun at somebody and everybody knows that there's no bullets in it. There's no bullets in that gun anymore for Zelensky. So, and you're going to find this out. He'll be out soon, I think. He will be replaced with someone that understands you can't beat Russia, and you can't even survive against Russia without our support. So do yourself a favor, like Poland, like I was trying to tell you in World War II. Be quiet. Be very grateful that we're going to help you. Stop stealing. Stop misappropriating the money. Understand that Zelensky will have no choice but to concede because without U.S. support, Ukraine cannot win a prolonged war against Russia. And once U.S. companies have mining operations in Ukraine, Putin will be unable to attack. Think about that for a minute. Think about why it was so important to make a minerals deal. Why they invited him to the White House, because it was to sign this deal. Now, had Zelensky had any brains at all, if this guy wasn't so full of the Biden administration where he was going to start telling people what to do because everybody was going to make money and all this other nonsense and break treaties and not care, you don't think Putin and his boys saw through that? You don't think that they understood what this guy's about, what he's gotten away with? And that was all under Joe Biden. And if Harris had gotten, which trust me, Zelensky and those guys are so bummed that didn't happen, that Trump won. They are, because the gravy train's over, man. The gravy train is over. This guy is going to cut back on waste. He's going to play chess and outplay them. Why was the mining deal the most important thing? Why should Zelensky have shut his mouth, worn a suit, shook hands and said thank you? Because if we sign that deal, mining-wise, no, you can't put NATO into the country. We're not putting NATO into the country. But we're putting U.S. bodies and U.S. financial interests and companies in the Ukraine, which means Putin can't attack U.S. and other foreign companies while they're in the Ukraine. It, in a sense, shuts this down and puts Putin in check about further aggressing because we just signed this financial interest. No, it's not NATO. No, we're not going to have there. But if you attack and bomb U.S. companies that occupy a country, you've declared war in that country. He would have to be very, very careful. So we negotiate a ceasefire. We make this mining deal. We make this deal on all these natural resources in the Ukraine and advance American, make money, employ people. It worked for everybody. But Zelensky walks in and starts telling people how it's going to go, what it has to be. This ain't Joe Biden. You're not going to tell anybody how it has to be. We have a plan that we're going to outmaneuver and we're going to save you and protect you and still give you the money. Just keep your mouth shut for a minute and watch how we're going to do this without alienating anybody and adding NATO and threatening people with planes. Now, it was a brilliant move. It was a brilliant move. But Zelensky decided that he was on national television going to make that he thought he had enough Democratic support. Democrats didn't win. They didn't win the election. The Republicans won, and Donald Trump is president, and J.D. Vance is vice president. And his advisor then came up with a very strategic financial play that would have gotten everything done without having to push anybody in a corner and threaten with NATO, and everyone could relax, and we could get this thing done and negotiate some kind of a ceasefire. Zelensky's real intent was he would not agree to peace unless security guarantees were in place. But what was he actually saying? That NATO must accept Ukraine and Russia would never agree to that. And that is the truth. That is what happened. That is what you saw happen. And while I listened to the Shelleys of my life talking about how embarrassing it was to have this world leader from the Ukraine that way, if I have dinner at my friend George, my Romanian friend's house, I am not going to bark demands on what should be on the menu. I am not going to insult anyone by dressing a certain way when I know that they dress this way on Saturday, Sabbath. Or you get the point. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I'm going to try to fit in as a good guest and someone that's good at the meal. And I don't believe that we got that at all from Zelensky. And guess what? He got his ass handed to him on national television by a leader that's not afraid to do that. Finally, somebody that has some balls that's going to turn around and tell people, and he's a dictator. No, but he's going to dictate what happens in our interests. He's going to dictate what happens in reference to how you're going to treat us and how this is going to go down, because we're paying for it. You want to put the money up. If you want to be the one, the customer is always right. The customer is always right. The customer is always right. Guess what? We're supplying this guy, he's buying it back from us. And we're not even using it to support his boys and his girls that are on the front lines. That country is falling apart right now. It's falling apart. if we're paying, if it's our tax dollars that's actually paying for all of it, then we're the customer, man. We are the customer. Don't think for a minute because we lent them the money and they're, no, we're not. We're the customer. We're paying. Who's actually paying for it? Are we going to get any of this money back? Are we going to get any of these billions and billions of dollars back from the Ukraine? Please. They're not going to pay a dime. It's all a write-off right now. It's gone. I'll read you this last piece. Actually, I don't even want to read it anymore. What I find really, really sad is that the sources laid out that are political agendas, obviously political agendas, people are fed a steady stream of information. And I don't think a lot of people take the time. We're very busy lives. How much does actually the war in Ukraine affect us? So while we yell out at the top of our lungs, free the Ukrainians and do this and do that, we really know what's going on. It doesn't take a lot through it. And understand, no one's going to sit here and say, what's Russia's perspective on it? Why did Russia invade? Well, it's very clear. Hey, Mexico, hey, Canada, and we're going to buy Greenland, and we're going to absorb Canada as part of the U.S., and all the stuff that goes around. How dare Trump? Well, Trump was looking at it from a business standpoint. But let's say Canada got really pissed. Let's say Trudeau's closing act was to make a deal with North Korea. Let's take Russia and all this out. Somebody who's not an ally. China. There's a great example. Canada exports, I don't know if you realize this, but a large amount of coal, huge amounts. One of the few things that they're very successful with exporting is coal. A lot of coal in Canada. And they sell a lot of it to industry. So much so they're talking about atmospheric problems that are happening from the industry because China's just blowing up. They're so hungry for business and they're doing quite well. But they buy a lot of coal. Big boats go across, bring the coal over there because they can't mine it as quickly as they can in Canada. So Canada does very well. Canada signs a deal with China. Well, we're a little worried about Trump. We're a little worried about him. We're a little worried about he says he's going to buy Greenland and he's tariffing us. And we're not getting along well. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to make a deal with you. We'll drop out of NATO. We're going to make a new alliance with Russia, China, this, that, blah, blah. You get the picture. We're going to let you park your fighter planes. We're going to let Russia park MiG fighters along all northern tier of the United States. Remember that 96% of Canada's population lives within 200 miles of the United States border. 96%. Think about that. Lives within a 200 miles. Canada is gigantic. Biggest country in the world now that the breakup of the Soviet Union. Bigger than the U.S. land mass-wise. The biggest country in the world, land-wise. 96% lives within a 200-mile border. And in all those cities, Toronto, Vancouver, Winnipeg, all these cities in each one of the provinces and territories of Canada, they all load up with planes from China. Do you think the U.S. would allow that? Why would Russia allow it after we already signed deals and then broke them and expanded NATO right up now, coming up on their border? What would ever make Russia think that the U.S. or the treaties are worth the weight and the value of the paper they're written on? Because they've been broken already after the promises and the signatures were made. So no, I don't support the attack on the Ukraine, but when you get the real facts, you can see why they're super and why they acted the way they did. So what we really need to do is make deals that we keep. We need to sit with Russians and ask them, what do you want? What would it take to have you withdraw? No, NATO will not be in the Ukraine. We won't do that. We understand why you would not want that, just like we wouldn't want troops from hostile nations in Mexico or Canada on our border. We would never allow that. Why then would we expect Russia to allow it? So we take NATO off the table. We tell them no. And we are going to be doing this mining deal. Zelensky needs to go home, lick his wounds, shut up, and let people that understand the game negotiate this deal, make the mining deal, make the minerals deal with the U.S. and the U.S. companies. And then we're going to start sending people over there, and we're going to stay together with the Ukrainians. I think we can negotiate a deal that removes Putin and them, but he wants certain guarantees. He does. He's not going to try to steal some of the or whatever. Again, he might. I don't know. But there's a deal to be made here, but it doesn't involve what Zelensky wants or what Zelensky thinks. And I'll tell you why. There's the players on a team. Let's take a football team. There's the players on a team. Then there's the coaching staff. Who has more power, really, in the day-to-day, in and out decision-making? Probably the coaching staff, the head coach, offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, so on. They probably do. Who has the final say? The owner of the team. The winner. He can fire the coach. He can trade a player. He can say a player's not playing for my team anymore. He can do things like, if you don't kneel, or if you kneel rather on my team, you're never playing here again. But it's his team. He paid for it. It has to do with the money. So as much as Zelensky is the one-time, or he's an elected official from this country, when it comes to this decision-making and stuff that's going on, unfortunately, he's not the owner of the team, even though he's the head coach over in the Ukraine. But he doesn't own the team because he's not paying the bill. So if you want our continued support, if you want us to continue to spend billions of dollars to secure your nation, you might want to check with us on how we want the money spent and how we want to do it. That would be really wise of you to do. So this is my take on the Zelensky situation. I really think a lot of people in America are misjudging how brilliant a move this was to shut him up and tell and send him, because this is how we're going to get the war to end. So if you really believe that what's going on is inhumane, put all the personalities aside, Putin this one, that, Zelensky, Trump. If you want a solution to the problem, we're well on our way by sending this guy home. We're on our way to making because it's unrealistic what's going on over there right now. The game has to change. So, and we're going to change it. That's exactly what Trump and Vance were doing. And they will. Watch how quickly now, not that they're going to side with Putin, that they're going to allow Putin to take over the Ukraine or any of this nonsense. That's not going to happen. And we're not going to allow that to happen. It has to do with the game of chess, the financial alliances and security that's on that chessboard. And Zelensky is not a good chess player. He's not. He doesn't understand the game. He's screwed up. We'll get it fixed. We'll absolutely get it fixed. So I'm going to end the show. I'm on a plane. My wife's probably upstairs going, where the heck is he? I love you, baby. Thank you so much for this great Oscar weekend. I had so much fun. It was so fun to be back in LA and walk the red carpet with my beautiful wife. She just made me look so good. But I'm going to end this with a prayer, and I'm going to, so if this is not something that you like to do, if you're not a person of prayer, I understand. Please do me a favor. If you could hit like, subscribe, send this out to other people and stuff. I mean, I would so appreciate it, because the show is actually kind of blowing up now. I think people, because I've been doing these, I don't know, but I'm doing these videos where I take an individual person who says, hey, what's going on with your brother? He's crazy, blah, blah, blah. Or hey, what was it like when you guys grew up? And I do hey, Tom, it's Daniel, blah, and I like the connection that it has, everybody. And so definitely subscribe and send a link out to people that you love. We're here to talk about just real stuff, that's going on right now, that I will go ahead and try to the best I can, my homework, back to you what I really believe is going on. And but it's time to pray. So here we go. Heavenly Father, Lord Jesus, we love you and we thank you so much for just everything in my life. I feel so blessed. I feel so blessed to live in this country. But Father, I want to pray for the young men into this war. We've talked in this show today about the relations between Ukraine and Russia. And now there's North Korean kids and advisors, I'm sure, from other countries. And it's just a terrible thing to see these young men and women lose their lives and get hurt so badly on this field of battle and in this war. And Lord, please protect them and help the leaders and help Trump and Putin and Zelensky come to some kind of terms that end this war. Let's just end the war, Lord. And I know that you have the mighty hand that could put over the situation and help these great minds come to the conclusion that war is not the answer. So we love you, Lord, and we praise you, and we thank you for everything that we have and who we are and what we are due to your greatness. Amen. So that's it. That's the show from wait a second. Maybe I should show you one more time. That's the show from the empty ballroom. This is where I am right now. And I'm here, I'm holding my camera. I've got my notes, and I had this, I had it on the box. I put my tripod on this box. So you could look at me and I gotta go get on an airplane right now. So thank you so much. God bless you.